As you know, I use the common natural law, but I've started using concurrent common natural law because that forms a wonderful little triangle that or a scale, I guess, and that helps me explain the common law and democracy differently from how it's done without the word concurrent.
How
So
so?
sorry,
How so?
how so?
How so?
So the common law isn't like what you and I have in common in our little village. It's what the villages have in common, right? It's how we decide between things that are different, right? So um, the same, and so when we say common, we don't mean that we all agree on anything. It's what is it that we share in common as a means of resolving disputes. In other words, what's going to cause the least retaliation cycles.
Okay.
Um, so the word concurrent in democracy is like the word common that I just stated. The difference is that concurrent means it's the same in all classes, just like it's common in all regions. So when people think we're not in a majority democracy, we're in a concurrent democracy. We're in a concurrent democracy for the same reason that we have the common law. Right? And we have the common law that just turns out to be the natural law, because the natural law is simply empirical. Once you eliminate authority, judge isn't an authority. That's a via positiva. He's just a judge, a decider, because decisions need to be made. So a concurrent, we look for concurrency the way we look for commonality, right? And the concurrency and commonality produce natural law. So what I'm watching your face here. Hopefully,
I want to get you to reiterate what your use of the word concurrent again, so that I understand.
It means, for example, in the United States, we have the pseudo king, right? We have, which is the president. We have the Senate for the states, and we have the House for the localities, right? And so the purpose of this test, right, is, and theoretically would have the church, right? So the church would have had an informal voice rather than a formal voice. Just like women had an informal voice, not a formal voice. You see how I snuck that in there? I was anyway. So we have the informal feminine voice of the church. We have the formal voice of the localities, which was meant to be the businesses, and we have the Senate, which is the voice of the regions or states, or really countries. And then you have the monarchy, or the king or the president, as the judge of last resort. And then you have the judiciary for the resolution of differences between them. Just likewise, we vote for people. We vote for people locally for the House, as a state for our Senate, for the aggregation of the group. So locally, regionally for the state, and then we have globally for the president. And we have we have three different institutions, right? We have the voting for the House, voting for the Senate, and we have the electoral college that chooses the president. So we don't, if we had the electoral college actually have a room on Capitol Hill, right, then there wouldn't be this problem of what's the electoral college, because it would, like, it's the fact that it's sort of invisible as part of its problem when it's just a jury. That's all it is, right? So the public juries regionally, it juries as a state, and it juries in totality of the president. These things are meant to produce concurrency, which means stuff can't be done unless everybody agrees, and across every class and region.
I got you.
So just like the common law is common because it's common across class and region, although class varied a little bit. What varied was myriad with the price. The main, I gotta say this. So like you would have to pay more to kill if you killed a high status person than a low status person.
Yes.
Just like you'd pay more for a high status horse or ox,
We're
right?
talking about weregeld.
Exactly. I mean, it's offensive it's offensive to our modern ears, but in the past it made perfect sense because it was just true. Right.
That's going to cost you more.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what concurrent means. It's the opposite of majority. It's the majority, it's all majority, it's all those majorities, not the majority. So we have to produce concurrent majorities, like we have to produce common law, evidence of commonality of dispute resolution in the common law. Now, the same thing has to do with our legislation. What the people don't grasp is that legislation isn't about what's good. It's about what's common. It's not settled law if it doesn't become common law. Right? In other words, commonly held law, right?
Mhm.
So this is something that came up during the abortion debate. So I've started using concurrent common natural law to explain the system and get it away from this pure majority democracy fantasy that's been created as a false mythos.
Yes, it's been chanted into existence.
Right. Reality by chanting. And so, and I'm trying to explain why that is, because it's empirical. In other words, there's nothing theoretical about our law. That's what being conservative means. It means being empirical, hypothetical, not theoretical. It means that unless you can prove it in the market and it gets adopted so that there is a majority of concurrency, right, between the group, the
Right.
localities, regions, then it's not suitable for common law. What I like is the court is going back to this.
It appears that way.
Right. And the reason the court is doing back to this is because they've observed what happened. They started breaking the common law. Right. They started making positive law, authoritarian law.
Right.
It's not natural. It's not common. It doesn't get settled. And so it
Fails on all regards.
It fails on every single regard. So that's why I've started using that, and I'm going to encourage.
I like that.
Is we live in a republic that relies on concurrent common natural law, which means scientific government of people who are peers get only produce law by consent. So what happens? The people have to adapt, and learn. Does that make sense? The reason our government exists is to make us evolve together. It's not to make the government lead us. It's to allow our leaders to create a market which force us to evolve together, maintaining high trust because we're concurrent in our common judgments. So if I think I just explained more about law,
Yes.
then you're going to get out of most education, and that the fact that it can do it in 10 minutes
That was a worthy little
is kind of terrifying to me.